2 days after my daughter-in-law told me to leave, she texted me like nothing had happened, reminding me what time to come babysit her daughter. She thought I'd swallow the insult and show up like always. That Sunday, she learned I wasn't coming back. The crystal champagne flutes clinked softly under the string lights in the courtyard of the Grandview estate. My son Julian was celebrating his appointment as senior partner at his law firm. I had spent 6 weeks planning this dinner, organizing the caterers, and paying the $5,000 deposit from my late husband's pension savings. I adjusted my silk scarf, watching Julian laugh with his colleagues near the stone fountain. As the waiter brought out the dessert trays, I walked toward the bridal suite to grab my sweater. The door was slightly cracked. Inside, my daughter-in-law, Brooke, was standing near the vanity mirror with her mother, Evelyn. Brooke was reapplying her lipstick while Evelyn adjusted the zipper on her lace dress. "Your mother-in-law is sitting right at the head table next to the managing partner," Evelyn said, her voice dripping with mild annoyance. "People might think she funded this entire evening." Brooke placed her lipstick tube on the marble counter with a sharp click. "I know. She keeps hovering around the guest book like she owns the place. Honestly, having 2 mothers here is just too much." I stood still in the quiet hallway, my fingers gripping the leather strap of my handbag. Brooke turned toward the doorway, catching my reflection in the full-length mirror. She did not flinch or apologize. Instead, she crossed her arms, locked eyes with me, and spoke with absolute coldness. "My mom stays. You can go." The words floated in the air, heavy and sharp. I did not raise my voice. I did not call for Julian or create a scene in front of 70 distinguished guests. I simply picked up my purse from the velvet chair near the door. "Enjoy the rest of your evening," I said quietly. I walked out through the side entrance, found my sedan in the parking lot, and drove home into the quiet, suburban night. My kitchen smelled of freshly brewed roast coffee at 7 on Sunday morning. For the past 4 years, my Sundays followed an unchangeable routine. I would wake up early, prepare a large casserole dish of cinnamon French toast, pack homemade turkey sausage, and drive 20 minutes to Julian and Brooke's home in Oak Ridge. I would watch their 6-year-old daughter Maya while they slept in and went to their morning hot yoga class. I poured my coffee into a ceramic mug and sat at the granite island. The silver clock on the wall ticked steadily. On the counter lay a set of spare house keys that Julian had given me 3 years ago when Maya was born. My phone chimed on the placemat. A text message from Brooke appeared on the screen. "Don't forget to use the side gate today. The front porch carpet is being deep cleaned at 9. There was no mention of the party at the Grandview estate. No acknowledgement of the words spoken in this dressing room. Brooke assumed that my silence on Friday night meant compliance, that my role as free childcare was far too permanent to be altered by insult. I picked up my pen and wrote a neat note on a yellow pad. I slipped the brass keys into an envelope, sealed it, and set it beside the stove. Instead of opening the refrigerator to gather eggs and milk, I pulled out my tablet and opened a travel website. I booked a small cottage near the coast in Maine for the upcoming weekend. When 8 o'clock arrived, my phone rang. It was Julian. I let the call go directly to voicemail. I took a slow sip of my hot coffee, listening to the quiet hum of my own house, realizing just how long I had allowed my presence to be taken for granted. The autumn breeze blew dry leaves across the driveway as I tended to the hydrangeas in my front yard on Tuesday afternoon. A silver SUV pulled up to the curb, its tires crunching softly against the gravel. Julian stepped out of the vehicle, holding a stack of legal documents and a cardboard carrier with 2 iced lattes. "Mom, you didn't answer my calls all weekend," he said, walking up the paved walkway with a strained smile. "Maya was asking where you were on Sunday. Brooke had to cancel her studio class." I set my gardening shears down on the wooden bench. "I was busy packing for a short trip, Julian." He handed me one of the paper cups, but I politely shook my head, gesturing to my dirt-covered gloves. He set the cup on the porch railing and rubbed the back of his neck. "Oh, look, Brooke told me there was some miscommunication at the party," Julian said, his eyes avoiding mine. "She said you left early because you weren't feeling well. She felt bad that you missed the main course. I looked at my son, searching his face for any sign of genuine awareness. He was hiding behind vague phrasing, attempting to smooth over a deep fracture with polite excuses. Brooke was very clear, Julian, I replied evenly. She told me that having two mothers there was too much. She said her mother stays and I can go. I simply complied with her request. Julian blinked, his jaw tightening. She was just stressed with the event planning, Mom. You know how big events get. She didn't mean it literally. I am taking her words literally from now on, I said, picking up my shears. It saves everyone a great deal of confusion. He stood on the porch for a moment, waiting for me to soften, but I turned back to my garden. On Thursday morning, I sat at my home desk with my accounting ledger open. Before retiring 5 years ago, I spent 3 decades working as a commercial real estate auditor. Numbers and contracts had always provided clarity where emotions created noise. I reviewed my monthly bank statements line by line. Every month for the past 2 years, I had auto-transferred $600 to a shared savings account set up for Maya's private elementary school tuition. Additionally, I paid the monthly premium for a comprehensive umbrella insurance policy that covered the suburban home Julian and Brooke had purchased 3 years prior. When they short of their down payment, I had signed as a guarantor on their secondary mortgage note. A soft knock sounded at my front door. It was Evelyn, Brooke's mother. She stood on the welcome mat wearing a beige trench coat, holding a leather tote bag. Eleanor. Evelyn began stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Julian mentioned you were upset about Friday. I think this whole situation is being blown out of proportion. Does Brooke think so as well? I asked, standing by the foyer table. Brooke is extremely busy managing the household and planning Maya's birthday next month, Evelyn said, smoothly adjusting her coat collar. We all say things under pressure. Frankly, as family, we should move past minor misunderstandings. Respect is not a minor detail, Evelyn, I replied calmly. And family is not a license for disrespect. Evelyn's polite demeanor stiffened slightly. Well, Maya is expecting her grandmother at her party. We already ordered the catering based on the usual family head count. Then you will have one less guest to account for, I said, holding the front door open for her. Evelyn looked at me with cold surprise, then turned and walked down the steps into the cool morning air. The sound of crashing ocean waves filled the small cottage in Kennebunkport. I spent 3 days walking along the rocky shoreline, wearing a thick wool sweater, breathing in the salty air. For the first time in years, my mind was entirely clear of family schedules, pickup times, and unappreciated obligations. On Saturday evening, my phone lit up on the bedside table with 5 consecutive text messages from Julian. Mom? Where are you? Brooke's mother had a sudden bridge tournament and couldn't watch Maya today. We missed our dinner reservation with the managing partner. Please call me back. Is your car at the house I drove by and it's empty? We need to talk about the birthday party plans. I set the phone face down on the nightstand and picked up my paperback novel. I felt no panic, no guilt, and no urge to apologize for my absence. I had spent years making myself constantly available, believing that usefulness was the foundation of love. Brooke's words at the party had shattered that illusion, revealing that my presence was viewed merely as a convenient utility. The next morning, I visited a local bank branch in town. I filled out a simple form to terminate the automatic monthly transfer to the tuition fund. The funds would remain intact, but future contributions would cease immediately. I also called my insurance broker and removed my name from the secondary guarantor agreement, directing all future premium notices directly to Julian's residential address. I drove home on Monday afternoon, watching the golden autumn leaves pass by my car window. I was no longer interested in maintaining a false harmony that required my self-respect as payment. The following week, an embossed cream envelope arrived in my mailbox. It was a formal invitation to Maya's 7th birthday party, scheduled at an exclusive equestrian club outside the city. Inside was a handwritten note from Brooke. We would love for you to join us for Maya's special day. Family comes first. I stared at the thick paper, noting the neat calligraphy. It was a calculated attempt to reset boundaries without ever addressing the harm caused. Brooke expected the invitation to act as an automatic erasure of her previous words. That evening, Julian came to my house alone. He looked exhausted, the dark circles under his eyes, revealing the strain of managing childcare and work without my background support. "Did you get the invitation?" he asked, sitting at the dining table. "I did," I replied, pouring 2 glasses of water. "Are you coming?" "No, Julian. I will take Maya out for ice cream and give her a present on her actual birthday, just the 2 of us. But I will not be attending the party." Julian slammed his hand gently against the wood table. "Mom, this is getting ridiculous. Brooke sent you a nice note. She's reaching out. Why do you have to be so stubborn?" "Reaching out with an invitation is not an apology, Julian," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "Brooke explicitly told me that having 2 mothers present was too much. I am respecting her preference. I am making it 1 less." "She said that in a moment of frustration," Julian argued. "And she meant it," I replied softly. "When people show you how they view your presence, you should believe them." "I am not angry, Julian. But I will no longer attend events where I am tolerated rather than welcomed." Julian sat in silence, unable to counter my calm logic. 3 weeks later, the atmospheric pressure in the family shifted dramatically. I was sitting on my back patio reading the morning newspaper when my phone rang. It was Julian, and this time his voice carried genuine distress rather than irritation. "Mom, I just got a certified letter from the mortgage company," he said, his breath hitching. "They said the secondary loan guarantee was modified and our monthly escrow payment increased by $1,200 starting next month. Is there a mistake?" "There is no mistake, Julian," I answered, turning a page of the paper. "When I signed as guarantor 3 years ago, I agreed to subsidize the risk profile for your lender. Since I am stepping back from active financial obligations within your household, I instructed the bank to remove my collateral backing." $1,200 a month, Julian stammered. "We can't just absorb that right now. Brooke had to reduce her hours at the gallery to manage Maya's school pickup, since you stopped helping on weekdays." "That is a decision for you and Brooke to manage together as a married couple," I said gently. "You are 38 years old, Julian. You are a senior partner at a major law firm. You have the capacity to handle your household finances without relying on your retired mother's savings. Why are you doing this to us?" he asked, his voice laced with betrayal. "I am not doing anything to you," I replied firmly. "I am simply stepping back to the position your wife requested. She wanted less of my involvement. I am delivering total independence." There was a long silence on the line. "Brooke is furious," Julian muttered finally. "Brooke is free to manage her home as she sees fit," I said. "I will see you on Thursday for my scheduled lunch with Maya." On Thursday afternoon, I arrived at the local diner near Maya's school to take her for ice cream as promised. I had bought her a set of watercolor paints and a sketchbook. When I stepped inside, I found not only Maya sitting in a booth, but Brooke standing beside her, holding her designer handbag with white knuckles. I walked over to the booth, greeting my granddaughter with a warm hug. Maya excitedly unpacked her new paints, while Brooke watched me with sharp, cold eyes. "Maya, sweetie, go pick out your flavor at the counter with the waitress," Brooke said, her tone clipped. Maya nodded and skipped away toward the glass display case. Brooke sat down opposite me, leaning across the table. "You think you're teaching me a lesson, don't you?" "I don't think about teaching you anything, Brooke," I replied calmly, setting my purse on the vinyl seat. "You cut the tuition contribution. You dropped the loan guarantee. You refused to come to Maya's party." Brooke said, her voice rising slightly. "All because of one sentence I said when I was overwhelmed. That sentence revealed your true attitude toward my presence," I said, looking her directly in the eye. "You did not say it out of confusion. You said it with complete conviction. You wanted me gone from the event because you found my presence burdensome. I was talking to my mother, Brooke snapped. And you said it to my face when you saw me in the mirror. I corrected her instantly. You didn't apologize then, and you haven't apologized since. You simply expected me to continue providing free labor and financial security while accepting your disrespect. Brooke opened her mouth to argue, but no words came out. The stark reality of her own actions was laid out before her, devoid of any drama or emotional exaggeration. Brooke took a deep breath, shifting uncomfortably in the diner booth. Fine. I shouldn't have said it. Is that what you want to hear? I apologize. An apology demand driven by financial pressure is not genuine, Brooke, I said, softly, shaking my head. You are not sorry for hurting my feelings. You are sorry that my absence has created inconvenience and financial strain in your life. She glared at me, her defensive posture crumbling into frustration. So, what do you want from us, Eleanor? Are you going to cut us off completely? I am not cutting anyone off, I replied, maintaining a steady, even tone. I will always be Maya's grandmother, and I will always love Julian. But my relationship with your household has changed permanently. I leaned forward slightly, laying out the new reality with complete clarity. I will no longer be your default babysitter. I will no longer subsidize your mortgage, your tuition bills, or your social events. If I am invited into your life, it will be as an honored family member, not as a convenience worker. And if my presence is ever described as too much, again, I will walk away immediately without argument. Maya returned to the table, carrying a plastic bowl with 2 scoops of chocolate ice cream. She sat down beside me, giggling as she showed me her spoon. Brooke stood up slowly from the booth, her face pale, realizing for the first time that she could not manipulate or intimidate me back into my old role. She checked her watch, picked up her bag, and looked at her daughter. I'll be waiting in the car, Maya, Brooke said quietly, before turning and walking out the glass door of the diner. 6 months later, spring arrived in full bloom across the suburban neighborhood. The oak trees outside my kitchen window were filled with fresh green leaves. My life had settled into a quiet, rewarding rhythm. I had joined a local historic preservation board, taking on a part-time auditing role that kept my intellect sharp and introduced me to a wonderful group of active, independent peers. My weekends were my own spent reading, gardening, or traveling along the coast. Julian and Brooke had adjusted to their new reality. They hired a part-time college student to assist with Maya's afternoon schedule, and they adjusted their monthly budget to handle their mortgage independently. The financial burden forced them to prioritize their spending, bringing a level of maturity to their household that had previously been lacking. On Sunday afternoon, Julian drove up my driveway with Maya. They were coming over for dinner. I had spent the morning preparing a simple roast chicken and fresh garden salad. Brooke did not come. She had sent a polite text earlier in the day, wishing me a pleasant afternoon. We had established a clean, distant, but respectful boundary. She no longer took my presence for granted, and I no longer demanded her affection. Maya ran through the front door carrying a drawing she had made in school. Look, Grandma. I painted the ocean like the pictures from your trip. It's beautiful, Maya, I said, hugging her tightly. Julian walked into the kitchen, setting a bouquet of fresh tulips on the counter. He looked at me, his expression relaxed and respectful. Smells great in here, Mom, he said softly. Table's almost set, I replied, handing him the salad bowl. I looked around my peaceful home content with the choices I had made. By stepping back when I was disrespected, I had given myself freedom and taught my family a lasting lesson about boundaries.